Okay, good evening and welcome everyone to the Orange County Clerk of Court's Legal Matters Legal Forum this evening. This evening's topic is understanding the foreclosure purchasing process, and I'm Dane Weister, the Communications Director for the Orange County Clerk of Courts. Again, thank you for joining us. We hope you find the information provided tonight to be useful to you. We do these legal forums as a service to the community, free of charge. And so we just hope that this is going to be very meaningful for you. We know we have this great speakers tonight with some great information. As a reminder, you'll be able to submit questions if you have any through our Q&A function on your screen. So on Zoom there, look for the Q&A function. You can just type in any question you have, and we will try to answer them as we go along after each presentation. We'll take your questions at that time. We will also have a survey for you to fill out at the end of our webinar. So please give us feedback by taking that. That helps us to plan for future legal forums like this. This webinar is being recorded and streamed via Facebook Live, and it will be posted on the Clerk of Court's social media channels after the broadcast. And now I'd like to introduce you to your Orange County Clerk of Courts, Tiffany Moore Russell. Tiffany.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Dane. I would like to thank you all so much for being here today. We know this is a timely and critical topic to discuss in today's environment. This legal forum will take an in-depth look at the foreclosure purchasing process. Through this forum, we hope to address common questions and concerns and inform you all on how to navigate this process. One of my office's strategic outreach goals is to increase access to justice. Legal Matters was created as a service for the public to make legal information easier to understand and more accessible to the public. These forums are designed to give our citizens more access to justice and access to the information they have the right to know. And we provide these forums free to the community. Holding these legal forums virtually has created new opportunities for us to bring them to you much easier. So I want to take the time and acknowledge my staff who have worked very hard to bring this webinar to fruition, as well as acknowledge our panelists who are with us today. So from my office, we have Senior Deputy Clerk, Ms. Karen Brody from our Civil Division. So just give them a quick wave, Karen. And with a legal perspective, we have Attorney Don Wynn. He can wave for us. And then from Court Administration, we have the Honorable Judge Reginald Whitehead, who has joined us this evening. So thank you all to our panelists for joining us and bringing your knowledge and being willing to share with the public. So thank you all for joining us this afternoon, and we hope that you find this legal forum valuable. So back to you, Dane.
All right, thank you very much, Clerk Russell. And I just want to point out to everybody, it was Clerk Russell who initiated these legal forums, again, as a service to the public. So again, we just appreciate her leadership in the community and to provide these to everyone. So let's just jump right into our presentations now. First up is our own Clerk of Courts, Civil Division Senior Deputy Clerk, Karen Brody. She has all the details about the foreclosure purchasing process and can address some common questions. Okay, Karen, welcome, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Dane. It is my pleasure today to speak about the clerk's role in the foreclosure process. Our foreclosure process starts when a final judgment is entered on a foreclosure or a real property case where the judge orders a sale of the property. The clerk will conduct the sale in accordance with the statute governing judicial sales as set forth in Chapter 45 of the Florida statutes. Foreclosure sales are held online via the internet at myorangeclerk.realforeclosed.com, and these are held pursuant to the judgment or order of the court in accordance with the Florida statutes. Our sales are held Monday through Friday, beginning at 11 a.m. on the date ordered by the judge, and this excludes legal holidays. You need to know that you must be a registered user to bid on or purchase foreclosed properties, and you must also have 5% of the highest bid amount in your bidder account to be able to bid on an auction. There are several ways that sales can be canceled up to the time of the sale. This can be done via court order, by the defendant filing a suggestion of bankruptcy, by the defendant also trying to redeem the property and getting a certificate of redemption, a satisfaction of judgment filed by the plaintiff, or through voluntary dismissal. If a sale needs to be canceled after it has occurred, the 5% deposit or the $70 pre-sale fee will be returned to the appropriate bidder account. If the bidder has already paid the balance due, this will also be returned to their appropriate bidder account. In order to place a bid on a property, you must make sure that you are registered at the website provided here. A 5% deposit, of course, is required prior to the sale. The site also provides helpful information such as the pending sale, including the case number, legal descriptions of the property, final judgment amounts. In order to register, you must have contact information and your mailing address. Please also look at the helpful hints on the side, as this will help you through the registration process. In order to register, please make sure that you include your name, your email, and a contact number. You will need to set up a username, a password, and also a security question and answer so that the information will remain secure. In order to participate in the sale, you will need to deposit 5% of your estimated highest bid. The deposits can be made through myorangeclerk.realforeclosed.com via wire transfer, or you can go ahead and bring us a deposit at our office at 425 North Orange Avenue, room 350 or 355, and we will take this in cash, cashier's check, or money order. You're also able to manage your own account on Real Auction. So this screen will show you your history, your summary, any messages, and any pending auctions that you may have that you're looking at. In order to locate a sale that you may be interested, you would go to the calendar, go through each date, and they will have the sales that are scheduled for that date. Once you look at that, you will find all the information you need in regards to that property, and you can go ahead and make your decision in case you want to go ahead and try to bid on this. In order to bid on a property online, once 11 o'clock comes, you're going to go ahead and start your bidding process. You're going to go ahead to place your bid on the bid menu on the left-hand side. And once you place a bid, a minute will start, and then you just keep on the bidding process until you get a winning bidder. Now that your bid has been successful, what happens next? If you are a successful bidder, the 5% that you initially deposited will be deducted and credited towards the total amount due. You must pay the balance of your final bid plus the clerk of court service charge in person or by wire no later than the next business day. We also allow extra time for wires as long as you have initiated the wire prior to 12 o'clock on the next business day after the sale has occurred. Please note that the certificate of sale will not be issued until all the funds are received by the clerk's office. There are various payment methods that you can use. You can make your payments or deposits by wire transfer, cash, cashier's check, money order, or attorney's trust checks. Of course, you would go ahead and make those payments at our office, and all cashier's checks or money orders shall not be more than 6 months old and are to be made payable to Tiffany Moore Russell, clerk of the court. Please note that all wire deposits and payments must include a $5 fee. When initiating the transaction at your financial institution, please make sure that you include this $5 in addition to the amount that you are wanting to deposit. Failure to include this may result in a delay of processing your transaction. The deposits will not be ready until such funds have cleared. Please instruct your bank to make sure that you have your bidder number on your wire transfer. Please note that we no longer take ACH online transfers for deposits and payments at this time. Pursuant to Florida statute, the Registry of Court Service fee is charged at 3% of the first $500 and 1.5% for everything over $500. This charge must be paid at the time of the final payment. Please note that in the event the foreclosure sale is set aside by court order of the court, the Registry of the Court Service charge or clerk's fee will not be refunded. Failure to pay the balance due of your final bid as required before noon the next business day will result in the sale being declared void and the sale will need to be rescheduled. Please note that the bidder will be defaulted and you will lose the 5% deposit as this will be forfeited. A certificate of sale will be issued by the clerk once all amounts are paid. If you are a third-party bidder, please note that the certificate of sale information is taken from the information you provide in real auction. So this information must be current. There is a 10-day objection period between the certificate of sale and the certificate of title being issued. Please note that this time, the homeowner or the bidder can file an objection to the sale. This can be done in the event that the homeowner wants to try to make some kind of agreement with the bank. So they may file something in writing with the clerk's office and we will send it to the judge. However, we will not be able to issue the certificate of title until we get an order on that objection. The certificate of title will be issued by the clerk after 10 full business days have elapsed and barring any objections or any other actions relating to the property. The doc stamp fees must accompany the certificate of title paperwork to be recorded. Please note that the documentary stamps are the amounts due to the state of Florida for the transfer of title. Prior to the recording of the certificate of title, you must present the clerk with a doc stamp check made payable to the Orange County Comptroller. Please make sure that you include the case number on the memo line. The amount for doc stamps is charged at 70 cents per every $100 of the final bid. Once you have been a successful bidder, you will receive an email that will contain this information as well. Please make sure that you check out the FAQ section on the Real Auction website as you go through the bidding process. There may be a lot of questions that may come up and this site may be able to help you. Please make sure that if you have any additional questions as you go through this process, you can go to myorangeclerk.com, click on the Contact Us button at the top of the navigation bar, select Civil, and fill out your information. All right, good luck and happy bidding.
Thank you very much, Karen. So at this point, we're wondering if we had any questions out there. So if you have a question, again, you can type them into the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. You look down there, click on that, and you can type them in. I believe it looks like we may have had a question here. Okay, yes, somebody's asking for the link. So the link, I assume, to our website, which would be myorangeclerk.com. But we can actually drop the link or send the link to you here. Another question that we have is, can anybody sign in, is what I believe they're asking. So Karen, I assume that question is yes, that anybody
Yes.
can register or sign
Yes.
in.
Anybody can register or sign in. Mhm.
So it's open to the public, general public. There's not any specific requirements to register and try to be part of the auction process. Another question we're getting several questions in now. How can you see if the property has any liens?
Okay, so for that, you would have to do your own research on the Real Auction website. When you click on the actual case that you're interested in, there is a section that gives you links to the property appraiser and also to the comptroller's office. So you're able to do your own research that way as well.
Okay. Another question we have from our audience is, can your realtor bid for you? Can the realtor
Yes.
bid for a person?
Yes, once they have permission, anyone can bid for anybody.
Okay, but I assume the realtor would have to register though?
They would have to register. Mhm.
Okay. And a similar question, can I bid through a power of attorney or for someone else? Power of attorney or someone else? how would that process work again? Is it a situation where they would need to register, or
Yes, they would need
if
to
they're
register.
bidding on behalf of somebody else, how does that work? Can they do that?
Well, if they're bidding on, I've had situations where it would be one person's bidder account and maybe they'll have someone helping them through the process. But then in the end, we would have to make sure that the information that is being put on the certificate of sale and title is for the actual bidder and not the realtor. So we'd have to make sure that that information is given to us.
Okay. Yeah, lots of good questions. Another one we received is, how do the tax certificate to tax deed to obtain the house work? I know of a house with 3+ years of tax certificates issued.
Tax deed sales are actually held by the comptroller's office. So they would need to contact the Orange County comptroller as
Okay.
they do those sales. Mhm.
Yeah, so that's a separate process.
Yes.
Another question we have is, once money is put into bidder account, how is it returned if we decide not to bid?
It's very simple. All you'd have to do is log back into your bidder account. There's a request a refund button. So you go ahead and click on that button, put the information in as to where you'd want the name and the address for the check to be sent to, and we'll send you a check within 2 weeks.
Okay. Are first-time home buyers using FHA loans able to buy foreclosed properties through this bidding?
Well, the main issue would be that they would have to have the total amount due by noon the next day. So as long as they are able to have that loan and have that check in hand by noon the next day, then they can use whatever means of loans they need to.
Okay, great. All right. Questions are just rolling in, so thanks for your participation, our audience.
Of course.
Also, can you see the property or do inspection? That's one of the questions, if they can see the property or do an inspection.
Well, they can certainly drive by the property, but as far as inspections, that I would probably refer until after they have actually purchased the property.
Yeah, it is a foreclosed property, so I don't know. if it goes
So it's
through
an
that
as-is
typical
sale, pretty
inspection.
much. It's an as-is sale, so.
As is sale, yes. And our next presenter, Don, may be able to give us some more insight into that. But in what condition the property up for bid is in, is it specified? So in other words, does the bidder know the condition of the property? Is it specified?
Not necessarily. The only information that we would have would be whatever is at the comptroller's office and the property appraiser. So our website would not necessarily give us the exact condition of the property, but they would be able to drive past the address so they can see for themselves.
Gotcha. Okay. This is a question that says, can us little people, quote unquote, little people, beat the big real estate investors?
Sure, I see it every day.
If you get the winning bid, correct?
Yeah, if you get the winning bid, then you're good to go.
Okay. Also, what is the minimum bid required for a foreclosure? Is there a minimum?
No, there's not. Majority of the time, it does start at 100, but we do not have a set minimum.
Yeah.
Banks will also put the amount that they would like to see from that property. So they may put a estimated amount that they would like, but we don't have an exact starting amount.
And I think we're down to maybe one of our last questions. Can I receive a copy of the recording? I assume they might be talking about, is that the recording of the auction, or is it maybe our recording here? That's what we don't know. So I don't know. There is not a recording of the actual auction itself, correct?
No, but they do also have training videos online. So if you are a potential bidder, you can also feel free to go through the training videos on Real Auction, as they can be helpful in the bidding,
Okay.
helping with the bidding process.
Yeah. So the clarification on that is the recording of this webinar. Yes, this is being recorded. It is on Facebook Live, our clerk's office Facebook Live. It's on Zoom right now, but it will also be added to the clerk's office. This webinar will be added to the clerk's office website and social media channels. So that would be the easiest way for you to see this recording. A couple more questions have come in, and then we'll try to move on. What time frame do I have as a bidder to see the house before bidding?
Well, it just depends on how soon you find a house that's up for sale. Because if you have a few days before the actual sale date, then you have that time to be able to drive past and see. So it just depends on the time frame of when the sale is for the property that you're interested in.
Gotcha. Can you see the amounts of other people? In other words, can you see the other amounts to try and beat it? Can you see what other people are
Yes.
bidding?
Yes, once the bidding process has started, you're able to see what each person bids, and each sale is a minute. So for example, if you place a bid, it starts a minute. And then if somebody else bids, then that starts the minute over. But you're also able to see what the next highest bid is. So you can kind of estimate how far you or how high you want to go.
Okay. If you purchase a property at the minimum bid through the bank, does the bank, okay, if you purchase a property at the minimum bid through the bank, do they have the right to decline that bid? I don't know. I understood that question completely.
I'm not sure I understand either.
Yeah. So I don't know if you could clarify that, whoever asked that, but are we letting bots bid on property? I assume not. We're
No.
not letting bots
No.
online bid. And what happens if a bank has an estimate value, but my winning bid is lower? Do they come after me for the balance?
That the clerk has no information on. We do know that a lot of times they may come after you, as we've heard from customers. But as far as our process, whatever amount that you win the bid at, we will issue the certificate of sale and title at for you for that.
Okay. And actually, our next presenter might be able to fill in some blanks on that. So thank you. That was Karen Brody, who is with the Clerk of Courts Civil Division. She's a senior deputy clerk. And thank you for that information on the bidding process. So we're going to move to our next presenter now. In our next presentation, I'd like to introduce to you Attorney Don Wynn, who is giving of his time freely to be here. And Don is with DHN Attorneys and has some good legal information to help you along in this process. Take it away, Don.
Thank you, Dane, and thank you, Karen, and everyone that's attending. Let me just go back to that last question that went to Karen. The banks or the plaintiffs in any foreclosure case is going to set the minimum amount that they're going to let the auction go for, which will cover their judgment amount, basically. So the scenario is the plaintiff is also allowed to bid, and they're not going to allow for the winning bid to be lower than the amount that they're due under the judgment. And this is just typically speaking. So I just wanted to clarify that before I get into my presentation. But let me bring that up right now. All right. So what we're going to go over here is what to know before bidding on foreclosure auctions. And just so everyone knows, my target audience in designing this presentation are people who are just starting to consider foreclosure auctions as a potential way to identify properties to invest in. You can call them the quote unquote little people. What I really want to do is help you look behind the curtain a little bit, remove some of the mystery behind the process, the thought process and analysis that goes behind investing or purchasing foreclosed properties. A little bit about me. I've been practicing law since 2008. I started this law firm, DHN Attorneys, in 2013. I have been involved in some capacity in probably thousands of foreclosures across Florida, both on the plaintiff side and on the defendant side. Primarily, I represent HOA and condo associations in these foreclosure actions. Like I said, I started practicing in 2008, so that was right during the Great Recession. Lots of foreclosures, lots of crazy things going on. I've seen a lot of things, and I hope I can share some of my perspectives with you tonight to help you avoid some of the pitfalls that I've seen. So I want to give you a basic roadmap of what I'm going to discuss with you. The goal is to key you in again on some things that you know that you should know or you should keep in mind. I think a lot of times people are focused too much on the end result, which is obviously to make money for the most part. And they skip a lot of key aspects, key details that could avoid a lot of mistakes. So what I want to go over first is the concept of buyer beware. What does it mean? To go on to the rest of the presentation, we need to also go over some basics of real estate law, primarily what liens are and how those are treated within the foreclosure process. Next, how you can still conduct a quote unquote inspection despite this not being a traditional sale situation. And then lastly, go over some considerations that you should take into mind after you are the winning bidder at a foreclosure sale. So buyer beware, what does it mean? It's different. These foreclosure sale auctions are different from traditional sales where there's an escrow period or an inspection period. So in today's time, maybe it's not so different given how many offers are waiving inspections, even in traditional sales these days, but all properties are sold as is. So you aren't having a chance to enter and do a physical inspection. Bidders are responsible for conducting their own research as to the property being sold, its location, condition of any structures, fixtures, marketability, potential uses, whether any potential liens or other defects in title may exist. Again, this is stuff that's usually taken care of, explored and investigated during the title closing process, but you are taking on that risk yourself by doing the foreclosure auction. You won't get any warranties regarding the condition of the property. You have no recourse if a problem comes up to light. In the traditional sale, you get title insurance, but here in this case, you will not have it and if anything were to come up. So it could lead to costly legal battles if you don't know what you're doing. So at the end of the day, you have to just do your research now. What I want you to do is change your mindset from buyer beware to buyer prepare. As everyone knows, the real estate market is really hot right now. You're seeing offers come in and properties selling way above asking price. And so I know it's very tempting to look to foreclosure sales to try and find potential gems in the foreclosure auctions. But the process is difficult. No one teaches you really how to do the process. So many people do get scared off. So on one hand, you do have less competition. But on the other hand, the ones that are still in the game, the investors looking in this arena often really know what they're doing. So you need to familiarize yourself with the law and the free resources that are available to you. And hopefully I can teach you how to do some of that. So going into a little bit about property law, and I won't try to bore anyone too much, but understanding liens is probably the most important part of this process. So a claim of lien is a legal claim to property that operates as a security against any amount of money or services owed to another person or entity. There are many types of liens. A mortgage is a type of lien. You can have a judgment lien. Contractors performing services on your house can have a lien. HOA and condo associations can have liens. So what's important for you is learning or have a basic understanding that when there are multiple liens on the same property, there is a priority of liens in relation to the others. So in Florida, a lien's priority is generally determined by when it was recorded. So the earlier it was recorded, the higher its priority. So for example, first mortgages typically have priority over a second mortgage. There are exceptions to the rule. Real estate tax liens, which we kind of touched on previously, is kind of a different animal in and of itself, which we won't go into tonight, but those have what we call super priority. Real estate taxes have priority over everything, including the first mortgage. So that's something to keep in mind, and we'll go over that a little bit more later as well. Another exception are for HOAs and condo associations. Those are governed by Florida statute chapters 718 and 720. Those provide that liens on a property to secure the payment of past due assessments relate back to the recording of the original declaration. So that's usually recorded when the HOA was first established. So that's going to predate the original mortgage. So a lot of times the HOA lien has priority over the first mortgage, but those declarations usually have a provision inside it that subordinate the HOA's lien to that of a first mortgagee. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone. Just know that that's really designed to encourage lending within a community. Basically, no one's going to lend you money to purchase in a community if you can be foreclosed on and their mortgage wiped out if you don't pay HOA and condo assessments. So wanted to kind of illustrate the timeline of the foreclosure process here a little bit, because I do think that people mentally leap from the first step to the last step, which is, you have the sale date, you win, and then they're immediately then thinking about, oh, what am I going to do next with the property? So you do have the sale date. Karen talked a little bit about the issuance of the certificate of sale. That indicates that the property has been sold. It lets you know, or lets everyone know what the property sold for. But it is important to know that at that point, you do not own the property yet. It's not until the certificate of title is issued, which 10 business days, 2 weeks, that operates as your deed. And at the point that that is issued, that's when you own the property. At that point, once you have that certificate of title, this is when you need to be doing a lot of brain work and contacting and getting payoffs, clearing title so that you can take it to the next step, which is to market the property, sell it, flip it, whatever it is you might do, maybe even move into the property yourself. So that's really how the process, that's how I would outline the process. From here, I would go into the third topic of conversation, which is how you go about conducting your inspection when there is no traditional physical inspection that you're allowed to do. Fortunately, there's just a wealth of information available free online that, a lot of these big investor groups or people that are investing in foreclosure auctions, they utilize these same tools that are largely available to you. You just need to know how to look. So the first place that I would point out, and I think, unfortunately, this is where a lot of people kind of stop their research and analysis, but to me, it's a starting point and a starting point only. So these are third-party sites. Zillow is probably the most popular one, but other real estate companies have similar websites as well. This gives you valuable information such as estimated market values. You can even find pictures of the interior from former listings of the property a lot of times. So that gives you some idea of what it looked like at some point or another. If you do have access to the MLS or have a realtor that you work with that has access to the MLS, that has a lot of information that can help you on it, including purchase history, which you can find yourself online, but there's a lot of listing information that's available on MLS that it can be helpful as you do your analysis. Next, as Karen talked about and touched on before, is the property appraiser's website. Again, each county has a property appraiser or a similar property assessor website that gives valuable information about the property itself. You can see the tax assessed value on there. You can see the ownership history. That's important because you want to see who owns the property now. This is also very key too. You can also find area comps. I believe one of the tabs on the property appraiser cards that you see for each property shows you all of the sales that have occurred within the general vicinity over the last 12 months. So that's very key, useful information. The comptroller's website is also very important. It's not as necessary, I would say, as the other two, but you can get valuable information from here because you can identify potential claimants. By that, what I mean is if you know the ownership history, you know who owns the property. If you look on the comptroller's website, you can see what claims are maybe against them. You might be able to find judgments against them. You might find liens that are filed against them, either by the HOA or by contractors, which again, that takes me to the next point, identifying liens. So that's very helpful. It isn't the most easy to navigate, but to be honest, anyone can really figure it out with enough practice. And lastly, probably the most important is the clerk's website. I'm not just saying that to suck up to Tiffany for inviting me here tonight. It actually has a lot of valuable information. It's often disregarded because I think people don't understand what they're looking at when they're looking at the clerk's docket or at legal documents. But it's very important because you're learning many things like the type of foreclosure. You're learning what parties are being foreclosed. And that's important because if you've identified potential claimants, potential lien holders, you want to make sure that they are named defendants in the foreclosure action, because that means they have lower priority, and by virtue of the foreclosure action, their interest is being wiped out and you don't have to deal with them. And again, I'm speaking generally, but that's important information to know. And that's important information that is available publicly on the clerk's website. Also, there's relevant dates there. Obviously, the foreclosure sale is usually set by a final judgment of foreclosure. Usually judges will set them out 30, 60, or 90 days after the judgment is entered. And at that point, that's when it goes on the clerk's calendar on the Real Foreclosed Auction website. So I know there was a question earlier, how much time you have, but you can have up to 90 days. I think sometimes judges will even set out a foreclosure sale date 120 days out. Usually that's designed to give the homeowner or the borrower under the mortgage additional time to work out an arrangement, but it also gives you time to do your analysis as well. So expanding on that a little bit, again, like I said, reviewing the clerk's docket is very important. You should always keep in mind, take a look at who the bank is, or I'm sorry, who the plaintiff is and whether or not it's a bank and what they are foreclosing. And that is important because there's a big difference between a bank foreclosure of a first mortgage versus, let's say, a bank foreclosure of a second mortgage or an HOA or condo association foreclosure. Because in either of those situations, you still have the first mortgage to deal with, which is superior to what is being foreclosed. So always keep in mind and take a look at is the plaintiff a bank? And if it is a bank, are they foreclosing on a first mortgage? You also want to look at the defendants. Are the owners that you found on the property appraiser's website the same parties identified as defendants in the lawsuit? Are there any other defendants listed on the lawsuit? So inferior lien holders like the HOA or condo association, any contractors liens that you may have found. Are those all included in the foreclosure action? And you'll be surprised how many times plaintiffs' firms or banks' firms don't include all relevant lien holders. So if you know what you're looking for, you can kind of avoid what it can be a potentially expensive or costly a mistake on your part. And I threw this in there. This might be a little bit too technical, but one thing I would look at is whether or not the defendant owners, the borrowers, were personally served with the complaint. Because a lot of times what you see the objections to foreclosure sales are that the owners didn't get any notice of any of the foreclosure proceedings. Maybe they were served by publication in a newspaper. Again, that's highly technical, but that can usually be a basis for challenging the issuance of the entry of the foreclosure judgment. So you might bid on a property that gets overturned where the foreclosure judgment gets overturned, and now you're just out your time because now you have to get your money back, which might be an opportunity cost to you. So once you've kind of done that online virtual inspection, I still would urge everyone to do their own eye test. Despite how good the information is available online, there's just no substitute for seeing it in person. It's important to look for the condition of the property on the outside, whether the exterior seems maintained. It's also very important to look to see if it's occupied. It might be occupied by the current owners, it might be occupied by tenants, but knowing whether or not it's occupied is going to help you decide what your next steps are. Now, I will say, I will advise not to knock or disturb any of the occupants or residents of the property. Just drive by, take your own, again, do a quick inspection on your own. Don't enter their property. You don't have any right to enter the property, to knock or anything like that. I do know that there are investor groups or stuff out there that might leave information for the people. That's up to you to decide. I just would advise against doing anything like that. Okay. So let's say you have gone through, you've identified the properties that may be of interest to you. You've driven by and you said, this is the property I'm going to bid on. And you then are the highest bidder at the foreclosure sale. And now you've given your money, certificate of sale has been issued, certificate of title has been issued. Where do you go from there? So what are your plans? I mean, obviously, I think most people will have their plans before they bid, but this is a good time to reevaluate what the plans are. Again, are you looking to flip it? You're looking to do a quick remodel, fix it up, sell it, put it back on the market? Are you looking to move in? These are very key things that you need to obviously decide on because it determines where you're going to go. So one of the first things that people ask is whether or not they should run a title search. Now, my recommendation is yes, because A, it's relatively inexpensive, and then B, you're going to have to anyway. So these usually run $100 to $200 approximately. You take a look at it, it'll let you know what liens are on the property. Hopefully it will show that you are the rightful owner of the property, but it's going to give you a lot of valuable information, and it's really should be your starting point. Should I contact the HOA or condo association? Again, so if it is a HOA or condo foreclosure, by all means, you need to contact the HOA or condo association because you need to give them your contact information going forward. But even if it's a bank foreclosure and there is an HOA or condo to which the property is a part of, it would definitely behoove you to contact the management company for the community association, because once you take title, you have 30 days to bring the account current, or they can start collections on you for delinquent assessments all over again, and kind of reset the entire process. Next question, I touched on it briefly before. What do you do about tenants? There's a lot of options there. You can evict. There is a process through the final judgment that you can intervene in the process and ask the judge to have all occupants removed from the premises, or what tends to be an option that I see investors take because it's sometimes cheaper because you don't have to hire an attorney, or it's quicker, is to offer cash for keys to have the current occupants or residents vacate the premises. And lastly, you do need to check if the property taxes are paid. Again, like we discussed before, property taxes have a super priority. So whatever foreclosure sale you may win on the Orange County Clerk's foreclosure portal, that will not extinguish property taxes that have come due prior to you becoming the owner. So you want to make sure that you are going on the tax assessor's website and making sure that you are paying those property taxes with the Orange County Comptroller, or the real estate taxes can be foreclosed. So I think that's all that I have. I'm sure that people have some questions. So thank you all for listening, and I hope there was some useful information there.
Okay, great. Thank you, Don. And so we're going to take a look at some questions. It was a great presentation, very informative. I know that we did have one question that came into us on our Facebook page, and that question was, how can I get a house with government Section 8, that they have Section 8? I don't know if that's makes sense, but how can I get a house with government as they have Section 8? I assume as far as this process, we're talking on foreclosures.
Yeah, foreclosures, and I think this goes to some of the questions that were asked of Karen earlier. The issue with trying to get any type of loan is that you're not going to be able to close on a loan within a day. And you're not going to be able to go through the loan application process without having the property identified. So, and until you have a contract for sale or you own the property, your lender isn't going to go through the process of going through your application until that happens. So timing wise, unless you have cash at hand, it's going to be very difficult to win a foreclosure auction and pay everything in the timeline that you need to in order to be the winning bidder. And I think that's just reality.
Gotcha, thanks. And for those watching on our screen, we put up the website for you. We had a question earlier what the website is for the auction site, real auction site. It is myorangeclerk.realforeclosed.com. It's myorangeclerk.realforeclosed.com. So that's the site, and you can also get there from our main website, the clerk's website at myorangeclerk.com. Okay, we have a couple more questions that have come in. Can I have a title search run before the sale on a property that I do not own yet?
Yes, you absolutely can. It would be a great idea to do so. I just think that a lot of people are a little bit hesitant to commit to spending even a couple $100 on a title search when they're not sure if they're going to win the property. But obviously, you're able to order a title search, review it, even if you don't own the property.
Gotcha. Okay. And another question we have is, what is a quick claim deed? If you could explain that one.
So a quick claim deed isn't really relevant to this discussion, but all that is you are the grantor, and I'm a little bit intimidated because the judge is here on the panel. I don't want to speak incorrectly, but a grantor in a quit claim deed is just conveying any and all interest they may have in a property over to you. But that doesn't mean that what they're conveying to you is marketable title. So for instance, I could give Dane a quit claim deed to the White House today. It's not going to be worth anything, but I'm giving you any interest I have in the White House today. So a quit claim deed is as basic as it is. There's no warranties, anything like that.
Okay. Very good. Awesome. Great information. We have no further questions at this point. So speaking of the judge, it's time to move on to our judge, which we are very honored to have a judge here with us tonight. And of course, we consider having one of the judges with the 9th Judicial Circuit here, which is the circuit Orange County is in, to be a great honor. So for our last presentation, and here to answer questions and talk with us is the Honorable Judge Reginald Whitehead of the 9th Judicial Circuit, of course, Orange County in that circuit, and also Osceola County. And he, of course, is donating his time as well to share with us a perspective from the bench. Judge, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. To be quite honest with you, I don't have a PowerPoint, and nobody sent the memo to me to prepare a PowerPoint, but I didn't have that much to say. I think that this is a great opportunity for everyone to learn. I think you have one of the people to say one of the little people that can learn how to do this. And I think this is an excellent opportunity for everyone to learn what to do. I commend Clerk Russell for her excellent idea of access to justice, because this is exactly what it is, access to justice. And the reason I'm happy to see this and glad to participate in this is because sessions like this make my job easier. In other words, I don't see as much litigation coming to court because judges are like referees. We don't get bothered until somebody has a problem. And you understand the process and the way this process works, it's a lot easier for us to deal with because, like I said, we have fewer problems, or the problems aren't as complicated because everybody kind of understands what they are supposed to do. A lot of what happens in this process is that people don't know. There's a lack of knowledge. And this actual webinar and this session and the information that the clerk is giving, along with Attorney Nguyen, is this excellent information. And I was going to ask you to stay on the line and ask all my legal questions, because I don't like to answer a lot of questions. I think lawyers, that's what you all do. We ask you all questions, and you know much more about this than I do because you specialize in this area. I will say this, though, from my observation, as far as foreclosures are concerned, and this session is really focusing on the purchasing end of foreclosed properties. Actually, judges don't really participate that much. If you've noticed, Ms. Brody kind of covered a lot of good information as far as what the clerk has to do with this. And the clerk pretty much runs this process. We do one important function, and that's that we set the date for the foreclosure sales. So I guess we start the ball rolling. And I think Attorney Nguyen indicated that sometimes it varies in how long and how much time we give people to set sale dates. I've always been on the end, and I've been through the process. I was in civil back in 2007 and 2008 when we were going through the recession and just a lot of foreclosures. And now we're coming back to that point again where foreclosures are on the rise. So I've always been of the opinion you give people more time to try to work these things out. So I'll set the sale dates a little further down the road, but it has to have a sale date at some point. And that's where we are. So the sale date is set, and we usually do that setting of the sale date. We usually don't get back involved in the case until, again, there's a problem. There are very few problems at that particular point. Every once in a while, we'll get requests to set aside sale dates because the parties have worked it out, or they one of the parties is well, not the party, the defendant in the case is declared bankruptcy, and there's a stay in the proceeding. We're getting an uptick of cases again coming back because of the pandemic. There was a stay, and that just may not be the exact legal word, but for all intentional purposes, there was a delay in the foreclosure cases because of the pandemic. And now we're getting requests by the banks to reset those foreclosed properties now. And so there are a lot of foreclosed properties out there. Every once in a while, we'll get into a situation where a foreclosed property, the sale falls apart and the parties have paid the money. And sometimes there's a dispute about whether the clerk should be allowed to get their money back or not allowed to get their money, give the money back as far as the clerk's fee. And statutorily, the statute says that the clerk is entitled to keep that fee, but sometimes depending on the circumstances of the case, you may have to give that fee back, but very seldom is that the case. And every case is different. That's what I tell everyone. My suggestion is that if you really want to get involved in this process, this is an excellent opportunity to ask the right question. You don't get too many chances to ask lawyers questions, but also with the clerk's office, with their staff here, they're very knowledgeable and they're making it really, very simple and clear to proceed with. And I don't know if anybody has any questions for me, but that's all I have to say at this particular point.
All right, great. Thank you, Judge. No, that's good information. And yeah, that's okay. No PowerPoint. We know you're very busy, so we don't always expect you to come in with a PowerPoint, but that's good information. And we do have a couple questions that have come in. So, and it's open to anybody on our panel to help answer. But one of them that came in from our Facebook page is there any other site that offers foreclosure information that may not be on the clerk's site? I'm not familiar with that. Don, I don't know if you are.
I mean,
familiar.
like I identified in my presentation, there's a lot of information on Zillow, MLS, property appraiser's website, Orange County Comptroller's website. I wish there was an easy site that kind of cross-referenced everything and tied it all together, but no, you kind of have to go to the different sites and index all the information yourself. There are obviously other counties that have foreclosure info. Osceola County has a similar procedure. A lot of counties use Real Foreclosed as well. So once you're registered on Real Foreclosed, you can use it in any county. But yeah, it's this is for Orange County, so I'm gonna stick with that. But yeah, you can always look at the property appraiser, the comptroller's website. They do have similar but different information from one another. And then Zillow or other real estate websites as well kind of give you a little more color as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
Can I add one point to that? And I think I'm just going to pretty much just agree with what Attorney Williams just said, is that if you're doing it in Orange County and you're dealing with the clerk's office here, you want to make sure you kind of probably look at what they say you should do, because they're the ones that you'll have to deal with, and they're going to answer those questions that particular way that they tell you the way they traditionally do it. You may go to another a clerk's office somewhere else, or like she said, the comptroller's office, and they may have some additional advice. But I think the gold standard would be the clerk's office that you're dealing with. So I would suggest they look at that particular clerk's office.
All right, very good. Okay, another question we received. In the case of tenants, does anyone ever keep the prior tenants in their newly purchased foreclosed property? Why is it a good or bad idea?
That's entirely a business decision by you as the investor. You obviously can make that determination. I don't think it's necessarily, I can make a sweeping statement whether it's a good or a bad idea. It's just if there are tenants in there, once you are the owner, you still want to do your own process. You're the landlord now. Are these tenants that you want? And these are all business decisions, considerations that you need to take. Is this rental rate something that you think is good? A lot of times, and I think this is an issue that goes beyond the scope of this presentation, is a lot of people that are living in these properties might not even have a lease at all. So that might be an issue as well, but that's not to say that's not something that you can work out between yourself and that tenant.
Great, okay. We still have a few more questions that are coming in. Okay, this is totally an opinion. The question is, do you think the market is going to crash?
You got it,
Certainly
Judge.
not.
Judge, you go ahead.
Oh, I have absolutely no idea. I'm not good at predicting anything like that. You just don't know what's going to happen with this real estate thing. It's getting big here because we have more and more foreclosures. You see how the prices of property are going up. That's one that, you know, if you know the answer to that one, boy, you could be in good shape. So.
The only thing I would say to that, and again, don't say Don Wynn told you that the market's going to crash or whatever, is that the market indicators today are very different than 2006, 2008. The property values today have increased for a different reason than why they increased in 2006, 2007, 2008. And I was a baby at that time, but I graduated law school in 2007, came out right into the middle of that, lost my job because even the legal market was crashing. But at that time, you had a lot of, let's just say, fraudulent appraisals being done, propping up the values of these properties, money being lent freely without really looking at the ability of the borrowers to repay that. Whereas today, the market is being propped up more because of demand and cash flowing in from other areas. So you have cash flowing in from New York, California, Brazil, China, and we are in a very highly desirable area, but this is real hard cash coming in. And market is dictated by demand. And so I don't think that this growth is sustainable, but I don't necessarily think that means there's going to be a crash. But again, I don't know. This is just me based on what I see, what I've read. I'm by no means an expert.
Yeah, it's definitely the market we're seeing now is definitely supply, lack of right now, and then the high demand. So that's where we're seeing the prices just skyrocket, but who knows where it ends, right? Okay, so other questions we have. When the foreclosure sale occurs, what claims are being extinguished? For example, if there is a first mortgage for 100,000 and no other liens and the winning bid is 50,000, is the first mortgage extinguished along those lines, or all the liens held by parties to the lawsuit extinguished?
That's an excellent question. All right, so again, so this is when you review the docket, what you're looking for on the final judgment beyond just what the foreclosure sale date is, you're looking at what the foreclosure amount is. So the original mortgage may be 100,000, but let's say that was taken out 10 years ago. So the final judgment of foreclosure, which is what the plaintiff is owed on the case, is a different dollar amount. Let's say it's 50,000, like the number that you said, right? So the bank's attorney is going to say, our maximum bid is $50,000 because they want to ensure that whoever is the highest bidder, their funds go to pay their judgment amount first, okay? So if the winning bid is $50,000 and the judgment amount is $50,000, that $50,000 goes to the plaintiff, the bank, and their first mortgage is then now done. If the winning bid is $75,000 and the final judgment is $50,000, that leaves a surplus of $25,000. And at that point, anyone else that has a claim to the property who may be defendants in the action, so let's say a second mortgage holder, an HOA or condo association, a contractor, they have the ability to make a motion with the Honorable Judge Whitehead to claim entitlement to those surplus funds. And that surplus is then given to them by their priority. So if and this is generally speaking again, if they are named parties in the lawsuit filed by a superior lien holder, their interest will be wiped out by the foreclosure sale.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Still a couple more questions here. Next one, I heard that Wall Street is buying up all the property for sale or foreclosed, which makes it difficult for us to bid. So is there a cap to keep them from buying up everything? Is that true? Not true?
Well, there is no restraint against people or companies or hedge funds or Wall Street investors purchasing properties. And I don't think that's something that the legislature will do. But is it true that a lot of these Wall Street hedge fund types are purchasing properties? For sure, most definitely. I mean, you see it now in traditional sales, where a lot of the offers come in, or you even see those online, like Open Door, any one of those companies as well, offering well above asking price. And I am not privy to the bidder logs, and I don't know who bids on foreclosure properties, but I will say that I do see certificate of titles all the time. And it's pretty often that you see regular mom and pop, husband and wife win a foreclosure sale. You see that issued on certificate of sales all the time. And so, but that's not to say that Wall Street isn't also in the game as well. It is true, but I don't think that makes it impossible for people to ultimately win.
Gotcha. Yeah. And who knows whether or not we would be able to identify that through, I mean, somebody could register as, even if they're with Wall Street, they could enter their own name and their own, they could, an alias, I assume, or maybe, I guess, if they register for the online auction, they have to enter that information. It wouldn't necessarily give the description of that. So,
Yeah.
Right. So if you have a question, definitely click into the Q&A section on the bottom and submit your question. We're getting close to the end here. We got at least one more question left right now. And then please don't leave right away. Remember to please take a short survey that we're going to have pop up at the end once we're done with our webinar. But right now, our last question that we seem to have as of right now is, how do you know the status of a mortgage of a particular property, like the remaining principal balance?
Well, we're talking about foreclosure properties. So at this point in time, a foreclosure judgment has already been entered. So the foreclosure judgment itself will detail all the amounts that are due under the mortgage, the principal amount, late fees and interest, attorney's fees and costs, foreclosure fees, everything like that, that they incurred to take it to the foreclosure sale. So again, go to the clerk's docket on myorangeclerk.com, find your case, find a judgment of foreclosure, look at the numbers on there. That will give you the amounts.
Great, gotcha, okay. And we did receive another question related to the recording. So yes, the recording of this webinar will be available. It'll be available right away on our Facebook page, meaning the Orange County Clerk of Courts Facebook page, but it will also then later on be posted to our website and also on our other social media channels. And we've put up this slide again to share with you that the real auction link or site for you is again myorangeclerk.realforeclosed.com. myorangeclerk.realforeclosed.com. So that's the site you can go to register for the online auction to be a bidder. Okay, appears we don't have any other questions at this point. So I want to thank all our presenters tonight. Judge Whitehead, thank you, Honorable Judge Whitehead, for being here. Don Nguyen, who's an attorney, real estate attorney, who's gave of his time tonight as well, and our own Karen Brody here with the Civil Division of the Orange County Clerk of Courts. Again, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I want you to all know that Orange County Clerk of Courts, Tiffany Moore Russell, understands the importance of these conversations in our communities, why we've started these legal forums. We hope we found it informative. Topics discussed here, we hope that it just provides great information for you. So please take some time, take our survey at the end here that will pop up. That helps us again to think about other topics that we could do for these legal forums, information you'd like to continue to see. And again, look for the recording on our social media channels. Thank you for joining us all. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you.